do this earlier, that we had live. We have one box, right, which we've made hidden by saying display none, right? And what we want is that when somebody hovers over this, it should become visible, right? So what we've done is, sorry. There is a letter written down. I've written down a letter. There is a G, that's the hyperlink, right? That's the whole idea, was that there is some concept like that. What you wanted. The first, what John asked was, can I have a background and the text on it? The simple answer was that background is an image, and then on hover over, you put a div inside, write whatever you want to write down. You don't have to have a div within div as well. The same div can have a background, and you can write over that by just having a text. But what we did was we added another text box on top, and now I've written down some letters in that, and I have inserted an image on it as well. Now what we've done is, this is that div which is hidden, right, called banner text. And there's another div on top which is called hello, which has got just that letter written down. Yeah? Usually you can have that size given to that div, an absolute size. I haven't given any size to that div. So that's another thing when you say how will people find it. If it has got a definite size, they will come to that, right? And this just says that there is a hyperlink. There's no hyperlink actually. Hash means it's a link, but nothing. It's not pointing to anything. It's the same page. If they click also, nothing will happen. The cursor is going to stay on the same page itself. It's just that. Now, why have it? Because I want to create this effect called as hover. And when I go on there, this image comes back. Right? You can add directly to hover, but sometimes some browsers don't work. It would depend on the browser, that until unless it's an hyperlink, hover effect wouldn't work. There's a lot more things, but if you don't working with that, then this works on every browser, so that's why. So all I've done is written down a CSS which says, that's your banner text. The only property which you're concentrating is display none. But I don't prefer using display none. The reason for that is display leaves a space, right? If you do with invisible and hidden, it just disappears. The whole thing is not there. There's no space, no element left, right? And all we've done is that that's your div, and I said on hover, and if there is a banner text next to it, can you please display that? And I can do block also, display whatever I like. You can use block, but just block means that it will have a box. Inline means it's like text, right? So hello hover, that means when there is a div, a mouse goes over that because it's a link, then I want this banner text property to be changed, and the property should become visible again, right? But then at the same time, you could do so many things with your images on hover effect, which are just simple CSS. You don't have to have two divs for that, because you don't really have to have invisible effect. But remember this rollover image which we got just now, that writes JavaScript. Insert rollover image object, that creates a JavaScript. That means if a browser does not support JavaScript, that rollover effect will not work. Now how do I make it work? You could do it in a different way. If you create a div, but the only thing for that is, you have this div, and if you don't want to use a JavaScript, then let's say this is called home. Is that right? You are going to make it as a hyperlink anyways, because that's your navigation. So the alternative for the effect which you're using in Dreamweaver, insert image and rollover image, the other side of that is you could just simply have this div here, which is going to be a link, right? Now, all I want is hash home hover and change the background image. This has just home has got a background image, and hash home hover has a background image, which will give you the same effect what you're doing with image rollover. But the only difference is it's a very optimized thing. The reason for that is there's no JavaScript code there, no need for dependency on JavaScript. Code optimization, 10 lines of code replaced by just one line. Does that? Sorry? Sorry? For just every navigation, you're going to make, every div, you're just adding that yourself rather than using insert image object and rollover image. Because that inserts a JavaScript code, and if JavaScript is disabled on any browser, it wouldn't work. It doesn't show. I mean, the rollover won't work. And this is the easier way of doing it. Yeah, but I don't want to, if you're not sure about this, don't worry, because when tomorrow or next week we do Dreamweaver, I can show you how to do this as well. My focus is on Photoshop at the moment, so we are bringing Dreamweaver in, and if you're not clear with Dreamweaver, then the problem is Dreamweaver, not the Photoshop, right? So, now the mockup. Now, I've left one, what do you call here, on your folder, there is one file called as mockup. I don't know if you've seen it or not seen the web mock. Now, this is one way of making, this is a web mockup. Website's first page, right? Which means we've started with gradient, this first the gray color, dark and a bottom, and then obviously created this, small boxes with gradients, this big box with gradient, this image here, all these. You've created this to show to the client. You've created this in Photoshop with all that gradients and everything yourself, right? So you can actually create this. There's a step-by-step handout. This is a step-by-step handout to do that, right? Using Photoshop. But then why we used to do this was because at that time, what people used to do was they used to use this whole image as in Dreamweaver. Does that make sense? They will use this whole thing, like the way you are doing. The whole, if they're going to use this whole block there in for Dreamweaver, fix that as, and then they will make, right? Now we don't have that concept. We don't use this kind of images in our Dreamweaver as backgrounds. Very little. We use, but very few, right? So what is the way of giving this graphical image before going into HTML to the client? How can I do that? I mean, I don't want to waste all this time. Does that make sense? I don't want. You are going to meet a client. Let's say you all have a meeting today evening to the client, and you want to grab an idea. What kind of a website does he like? Yeah? Sketch it up. How? Sketch it up on paper. Will that give him the real? Okay. Okay, let's get. Do you know any website? Do you know any website which you like? Oh God, Google doesn't have. No, Google doesn't have any. What I'm trying to say is that I'm not creating an effect. Does that make sense? I'm not creating effects in Photoshop by layer. I'm not doing that. I want to show a very quick way to the client that this is a website that person likes. Does that make sense? Let's take an example of Solar Press. Okay. Solar. What do they do? What do you like in this? No, what do you like in this? What is that you want from this? I just want to know what is that you want from this. Yeah? Yeah, my question still would be, what do you like in this? Is that a font? Is a banner? Is the color? Is the gradient? What do you like in this? Okay, there are 100 websites like that. What do you want me to pick up? Look, you are my client and I'm going to be your designer. You are telling me I like this website and I'm saying, what do you like in this? You might say I want gradients like that. What is that what you like in this? Okay? You don't know. I mean, the basic idea is you don't know, right? Now, somebody might say, I like the way the banner is or like the way the navigation is. Is that right? What would I do in front of him? Print screen, a press print screen, right? Print, no. Here, select that. Is that how you want it, right? Control X. One, go in. Obviously, we're gonna change the navigation for him, but I need to give him what the person likes. I want to give him a sketch of his or her website. I can worry about making that in HTML later on. So what I've done is, I go here, file, new, width 920. Let's say that's your page height, right? Click on OK. There you go. Move this. We'll worry about creating this. That's the first bit done. Pick out whatever he likes in various websites, put them in one. I'm not creating layers, do you understand? I'm not creating gradients, I'm not setting up. But within half an hour, while sitting with you, the client will see the rough idea of how that website needs to be done. I'm not making the gradients. I'm not working in HTML to give that layout. Here, layout is easy. All you have to do is move. He doesn't like a picture here? Okay, forget it. I'm going to move it. But you're giving him an idea of how that would be. This is the way of working. That's how we mock up. We don't have the time to, I'll go in Photoshop, create layers, create a sketch. Forget it. There's no time. You want to work with the client on a very fast basis. So what you do is, you sit down with the client, keep asking him what does he like. He probably would say, I like this font, blah, blah, blah. Pick up those words, pick up screenshots, put them in Photoshop to make him look. This is what you want? Is that what you want for your website? Yes or no? And then you start working on your HTML, and then you can obviously send him the mock-up and give him the choice of colors. Does that? But you already have the client with you. Do you understand? You will only give him mock-ups once you've signed the contract. You will not work onto that mode of creating Dreamweaver and CSS unless he is happy for you to go ahead. Do you understand? That's what we do these days. This is how we create a mock-up. This is how, you want this phone number here? No. He says yes, no. You don't want it? Okay, what we do, we show him. We just do this. You don't want, go this, fill up, right? Just fill this up with white. Is that how you want it? That's all what you need to ask. Height, not height. It's so quick to show that in the Photoshop because all you're doing is creating boxes. And we don't even worry about those gradients. We just pick them up from various websites. That is what he likes or not likes. Because you're asking him constantly, next website, what do you like in this website? Let's pick this up. Do you understand? Then we worry about later on how I'm going to get this effect in Dreamweaver, how many margins, and because that's a lot of work. Does that make sense? The layout and getting that everything right according to this takes time. Have you understood what I'm trying to say? Yeah? If this is what, like he said he likes solo tests, right? So we've taken their banner, we go here. Let's say somebody says I want it like this. So I could have taken that. This is too big, isn't it? For me, this is too big. But then let's say somebody wants this background effect. Yeah? All I'm going to do is print screen. Fine, go to paint, put that image here, and I want to pick up this box, because that's the gradient or that's the color factor he likes, he or she likes. Copy, go in my Photoshop. Yep. Can I? Where does he want it? One. Because I've copied that many. Yeah. I have the fourth image. I can actually show him. Is that where you want it, or 4 will be too much? Don't want it? Fine. Taken it off. That's how it's. He wants that thing repeated. You repeat it and show him how it is going to look. The image will change. He knows that the person will know that the image will change, but this is how it's going to look. And usually they will tell you that this is the client's website I like, or this is the competitor's website like, but you don't have to limit them to the websites of the same type. Does that make sense? Just ask them, what websites do you like? They'll say, I like this website for this. Pick up that concept from that website, put that in Photoshop and try to show. Does that, fine? Yeah, because I could have just now repeated, or I could have selected all this and copied it again and created a banner. Any other website you guys like? Come on, any other website do you guys like? Come on, say. BBC doesn't have, I don't see like it at all. ELAD. ELAD, BBC News, I mean, like, what do you want? You want to see ELADs, okay? If you're saying ELAD, what part of ELAD do you want to pick up? I picked up ELAD. Look, BBC here. What is that? Now, if the person says, I like this banner concept from here, is that right? Yes. So, print screen again, go in Photoshop, paste there, and select that whole thing from here. If you want till this, then just pick up that. Or if you want till here, pick up till here. Control C, Photoshop, Control V. Can you see this? I'm just trying to bring this how long it would be, or this seems like this picture is too big. You could resize that image and then drag it where you want. How do you want that? Where do you want it? Right? Because have you understood? You're not creating these effects yet. All you're doing is grabbing the concept the person likes and showing him, if I put this all different concepts together, this is how the website's going to look like. That's the first page going to look like. Are you happy? Because why would you want to work on Dreamweaver and HTML unless you paid off, right? Once he's got this sketch, the client might be happy to go ahead with you, right? That's the time when you sign the contract of work, which could fall off after the design stage itself, which doesn't make sense. You might not pay whatever, but you will only start once you've received some payment for that work, otherwise not. Garuda, why are you smiling? I want to see what's the reason behind that smile. Okay. Have you understood how we create a mock-up these days? Right? We don't go and sit down in Photoshop and create all those layers to give a sketch to the client. All we do is spend 30 minutes with them to understand what they like and give them a sketch like what I was just doing. There are two different approaches. We've done that older approach for 5 years or 6 years like that. create, if he likes PSD, fine, make change. But then again, if we were doing that, then it was also easier because you could change PSDs, the colors and everything, and give him 3 different variations. But now we say that we will do that, we'll put that effort onto a HTML itself rather than putting that effort on a Photoshop. Yeah, and if there is something which definitely needs to be created, like gradient and all that, that is a very small aspect. I don't have to create the whole sketch in Photoshop to get that done. Is that okay? So this is what people will expect from you if you are going to become as freelancers, designers, that how will you, what is your sketch which you're showing to a client. Now you could do this layout, when we say do a layout for a website, you could do that with the help of Photoshop as well. Those boxes, this is how my boxes are going to look like, or you do it on a piece of paper. Whichever way you want to create that sketch is up to you. Yeah, but then again, you have your layout in mind, isn't it? You have to have your layout in mind. But if you think, oh, I don't have the layout in mind, then you go to Photoshop, you can color different boxes, because it's easier to create those boxes in Photoshop as compared to Dreamweaver with all that CSS. So to create that just layout concept, but then either you do with that dummy images or you do that with dummy text. It's up to you. How do you want to do that sketch in Photoshop? Second aspect is that people know how you to resize the images. That's what is important. People would expect you to know that without saying, that you understand how to resize or crop images, which will just take, in Photoshop will take 5 minutes to do. That nobody will tell you that we will expect that skills are something which are expected from a web designer or a developer. Is that okay? But you could try at home if you want to do this mock-up. You can go through the steps. Since morning, the folder we've worked with, it's just there, 27th April, it's just there, called as web mock. Sorry? I will actually want you to create a website tomorrow. Okay. I mean, with little bit, obviously practicing Photoshop, but wanting you to create layout, getting buttons in, and then, but I'll give you the layout. Does it make sense? That's what I want. Maybe something similar, but what I'm trying to say is I'll give you that this is what I want. And I might give you the code, the whole code also to do it, but then might just ask you to resize your images. I will ask you to do the Photoshop work, but give you the rest of the things too. Yeah? But I definitely want all of you to go home and try the mock-up if you want to. Try something. I mean, what I'm trying to say is do something in Photoshop. Create a banner or whatever you like for your website tomorrow. Create a button. Do whatever. Some practice Photoshop, because you will have to do some practice in Photoshop to achieve what you need. Is that okay? But you could ask me any questions related to mock-up tomorrow, if you like. Is that, yeah? Tomorrow we have a class tomorrow, don't you? I mean, you were thinking,